Hello, great people around the world. Welcome to Moteka Freak. My name is Bennett Amadi. How are you doing out there? I trust you're doing great. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to build a simple UI UX admin dashboard with some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Remember, in the previous video, we were able to build or we were able to work on a simple HTML login form. But let's assume that we had a user management system where users had to log into their respective dashboard and see the activities that are happening on the dashboard. So we're trying to build an admin dashboard where the users can be logged into respectively. So in this tutorial, I want to show you guys how to build this amazing admin dashboard that we have here. It's very simple. I tell you, programming is interesting. Let no one lie to you. So without wasting much of your time and then without spending much time on this tutorial, we'll just dive in and start building the projects, our folder directories, and as we make progress. But just one more thing, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification button so that you get notifications when we post new content on our channel. Thank you. That being said, we'll just go ahead and start creating our application. So first and first, so this, like I said, this is just a simple admin dashboard area, so we can toggle between the white background and the dark background that we have on the team. So this is being done with JavaScript. All right, so let's just go ahead and start building our application. So first and first, what we want to do is that we just want to go to our desktop and create a new folder, and just somewhere around here, I'm on my desktop. I'm going to create a new folder, and then I'm going to call it admin dashboard. I'm going to call it admin dashboard. So you just create a folder anywhere on your computer and make sure you can be able to locate that folder at any time. So I have a text editor, and that is Visual Studio Code. I use Visual Studio Code most of the times for my application. You can download other text editors on the internet. Sublime is there, Atom is there, Dreamweaver is there, Notepad++ is there. Whichever one you're comfortable with, you can just go ahead and download and be able to use them flexibly. So I'm going to open my VS Code. I'm just going to type VS Code, Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code. What I'm trying to do is that I want to open my application folder within my text editor so that I can create the files that will be needed by my application just within the text editor. So now we have Visual Studio Code, and it's opened me a new window. So what I'm going to do is that I'll just go back to my desktop. Now you realize that I don't have any file inside this folder, so I'm just going to drag this. I'm going to drag this to the new window I just opened, and I'm just going to drop this here. Okay, that is coming up. So what we can do, you see, we have a new window that is open. My folder is here, but there are no files in it. I'm just going to close the other windows, so that we can just work here. So what we're going to do is that I'm just going to create a new file. I'm going to start creating a new file. So let me just right click here, and I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it index.html, because that is the type of document we are working on, since we're working with HTML. So I created a new file called index.html. We want to specify the doc type. And for this, I'm just going to say the doc type. Yep, the doc type is going to be HTML. I don't know why it didn't come up automatically. It's going to be HTML. Let's just make this capital letter. So the doc type is going to be HTML, and then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have the HTML tag open, and then we want to have a language specified for English. So I'm just going to say EN, and then I'm going to just terminate that, and that will auto complete the remaining tag for me. So within the HTML, we want to have a head tag. All right, we want to have a head. So I'm just going to say head, and press the enter key, and that will auto close it for me. Let me explain something to you guys before we proceed. Now if we go back to our application folder, which is this, you should see that we have a new file in there called index, because we created that within our text editor. So if we open this on our browser, you see that we don't have anything within the body area. Now this is the body area of this page, but if you look up here, this whole space is the head. So whatever changes we make within the head tag is going to be affected here. So let's just go back. So within the head, we want to have meta. We want to have meta character set. So meta, and then this is just going to be character set, and for the character set, we're going to just say UTF, and then we're going to have this as 8, so that it can accept codes from other programming languages. And then so the next thing we want to have is to have another meta, and this one is going, the name is going to be viewports. The name is going to be viewports. What we're trying to do is that we want to make sure our application is compatible across every device, laptop, desktop, mobile screen, and tab, and whatever screen we are working on. We want to make sure that our application is compatible on the screen and be able to adjust to the screen size. So for the next, we're going to have contents, and then for the content, we're just going to have the width. Width is going to be equal to device width, comma, and then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have initial scale. Let the initial scale be equal to 1.0, and then we have it. We can close the meta tag, and then just after this we can have a title, and then for the title we can just have a title. I'm just going to type title, and this will also close it for me. And then for the title, so we can just have admin dashboard, so that we can go back and see what this looks like in the front end. Admin dashboard. I'm just going to save this and go back. So let's see what we have. So if you look up here, we have a title, admin dashboard. That is because we're working within the header area. So we have this admin dashboard for the title. So now the next thing we want to have is that we want to have the body tag. I'm just going to type body, and this will auto complete it for me. So within the body, we want to start having classes. All right, we're going to define classes for each of the divs that we're going to be using. Now divs are used as containers to hold other HTML contents that we're going to be having in our application. So what I want to have, the first one is that I want to have a div. Dot container that will automatically create a class for me. I don't need to type it all day long. So you see we have that coming up, div.container, and then within this div we want to have a side and have a class within it. All right, we want to have a sidebar that will automatically create a sidebar class within the aside tag for me. So and then the next thing we want to have is that within the aside tag we want to have another div dot sidebar header. We're going to have sidebar header, and good. So within this we're going to have an h2 tag. Should it be h2 tag? Yes, we're going to have an h2 tag, and then we can just have it as admin panel. Okay, that will come up by the left hand side, admin panel. So let me save this and go back, and so that you see what we have so far. So you see we have admin panel. Yep, so the h is used to represent headers. Okay, so if we change this to h1, you will see that the size of the value changes, and so it's supposed to change, but it didn't change. So you can just try the various header settings that we have. We have h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, and h6. So with that, we're good on this. So the next thing we want to have is that we want to have our on other list item. We want to have a menu item. So I'm just going to have this, or rather I'm just going to say ul dot let's have a class for the menu item, ul dot sidebar menu, so that we can just automatically create the class. Good. So within the ul dot sidebar menu class, we want to have list items li. That will complete it for me. And then within the li, we want to have an a tag. A tags are used for links, so we want to make reference to a particular page different from the index page. So href is used to link or to make reference to another page, so that when we click on a particular text or link or a content, it will take us to that page we're trying to make reference to. So for this, I'm just going to have dashboard. That's going to be the first one, dashboard, and then here we can just have the link to the dashboard. It keeps us stay on the same page because we are not making reference to any page yet. So we're just going to, if we click on this, it still keeps us on the dashboard area. All right. So for the A, we want to have a class and call it active. The class is going to be active. All right, so that when we sign in, the dashboard menu item should be active. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to have another li, and then we're going to have another a tag in here. So for this, we can just have this to be users using the hash sign to be able to say that, okay, either we're making reference to JavaScript or CSS, or we're just trying to stay on the same page. So for this, we're staying on the same page. So users, and then we can just duplicate this. So I can just click here, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and then we can have this to be settings. Yeah, these are just menu items, settings. I'll take you to the front so that you see what we're doing. And for this, we can just have reports. We can have reports, and we can have reports. All right, so feel free to ask me your question anytime in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification button so that you can get notifications. So what we have here is going to be logouts. Now we are starting with very basic applications and programming language before we move to the complex ones. All right, so this is the next step in our UI UX project. So with this, we can just go back and refresh, and you see that we already have the menu items coming up. Now they are showing blue underlined because we have them inside the a tag. Remember, I said the a tag is used for link and for reference. So we're going back, and then so the next thing we want to do is that now that we have the aside and we are done, we're through with the aside. The next thing we can have is that we want to start having our main contents, items coming up. So we want to say main. We want to create a class for the main content. So we want to say main.main content. All right, so automatically creating a class for that, and you see we have a main tag with main content. Now ideally, this is the right way to go around writing codes in HTML5. This is the standard way to go around it. So the next thing we want to have is that within the main, we want to have a header, and then we want to have a class for the header. So we're going to say header dot main header. All right, so main header, and that will automatically create a class for us, having it as main header. So within the main header, we want to have h1 tag. We want to have h1, and then we want to have the title of the page. This is going to be dashboard, and then still within the main header class, we want to have a button, and then this button is going to have an ID. We want to have a button. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Okay, so we want to have a button. This button is going to have an ID that we'll use to make reference to changing the color of the theme. So this is going to be theme. This is going to be theme toggle. Yeah, this is going to be theme toggle. So with that, we should be through with the button. So within the button area, we're going to now say toggle theme, or change theme color, change theme color, and that's fine. So if we go back and refresh this, you should see what we have, change theme color. Good. So we should be through with the header area. The next thing we want to have is that we want to have a section. All right, and for this section, we are going to have a class for this section, and so the section is going to be section. Yeah, we're going to have a section, and then for this section, we want to have a class, and then we're just going to have it to be section.cards, section.cards, and that will have this for us. So now within this section.cards area, we want to see that we have divs inside here, standing as containers that will hold other HTML content. So for this, we want to have the first div, and this is going to be div.card. So we're creating another class, and we're calling it card. Yeah, remember this is cards, and remember this is card. All right, so this whole card, the number of cards we're going to have in here are being hosted by the section class of cards. So within here we want to have h3. We just want to have h3 tag, and then I'm just going to say users. All right, so within that we want to have a p tag, and then I'm just going to say how many users do we have? 1 2 3 4 users is what we have. So I'm just going to copy this and duplicate it. So Ctrl C, and then we're going to paste it here. So the next thing we want to have is that we want to have revenue. We want to have revenue. Yeah, revenue. We're going to have revenue, and for the revenue we can just have $2,000, $2,000, and then we're just going to paste this again. Yeah, and then for this we might just have this as reports. We're just trying to build something very simple. We can have reports, and for the reports we can decide to say the report is 50, and for this we're going to duplicate again, and then we're going to see we have support tickets, beautiful. And then for the support tickets, let's just say we have 100 support tickets, and we are good to go with that, so that if we go back and refresh this, you can see that we have the changes coming up. Good. Things are not looking like they are supposed to be. This is more like you building a house, laying the blocks, the foundation, but you will need an interior decorator to do some designs and that makes things beautiful and place things where they are supposed to be. And that is the function of CSS. With time, things are going to be looking just the way they look on your screen like this. Okay, so we are done with that. We should be done with that. Yeah, we should be done with that. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to start writing our codes for the CSS. So just before we do that, we want to have a link within our header area. So I'm just going to say link, so that we can make reference to our CSS style sheet. So I'm just going to say link, and then the relationship for this link is going to be style sheet. Okay, so that we know that we're making reference to a style sheet, and then href, of course, to make a reference to where we have the file. So this is going to be styles.css. So that is where we're going to write our CSS codes, and this is more like external CSS. All right, inline CSS is where you have to write your style sheet codes, your styles within the same page, but now we are doing external, and then we're just going to go ahead and create a new file here, and we're going to call it styles.css. Beautiful. And with that, we can just go ahead and start creating our CSS files. So the first thing we want to do is that we just want to have some basic resets. So I'm just going to do shift. We're going to have control and the question mark, and this should bring up the comments function for me. So I'm just going to say basic resets, and with that we can just go one step downward, and then I can have the hash, and then we can just have the curly bracket open. I'm just going to say margin. We want to have the margin to be 0. Let me show you what that looks like in front. Things are going to change a bit. Oh, what happened? Margin is equal to 0. Yeah, and then let's see if we're actually having the changes coming up or within. So padding is going to be 0. Let's see something. Let's see if we're having the changes coming up, except if we didn't link things right. Yeah, let's go back. Things are not working yet. Styles.css. Oh, we didn't save this. So we'll come back to this, and then if we go back and refresh, you see we have some changes for the margin and the padding. Good. So let's go back to this, and then let's just continue. The next property we're going to have is the box sizing. We're going to have the box sizing, and for the box sizing we want to make sure that we have a border box. All right, so the next property we're going to have for this is that we want to have a font family, and see how things change on the front. So I'm going to have Arial. Yeah, just the first one is what I want to use. So I'm going to save this, and if you go back and refresh, you will see that things are changing and text size is coming up. Yep. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to start working on our body area. All right, so we're going to go to the body. Now this is our body area. All right, this is our body area. So all the contents we have here, we want to make have properties that affect the body area. So for the body, we're going to select the display be equal to flex. Good. The next thing we want to do is that for the body, we want to select the height. We want to have the height to be 100 vertical height. And then the next thing we want to do is that we want to have overflow property, and we want to have that to be hidden. All right, so we're going to save this. Now the idea about around the overflow hidden is that if we have content within our body area that exceed the width of our page or the height of our page, we don't want to have vertical, sorry, that exceed the width of our page. We don't want to have the horizontal scroll bar going left and right. Okay, so we should just hide the content if it exceed the width of our page. So that's the essence of the overflow hidden. Okay, that's for the body. The next thing we want to work on is the container. Now take notes that for the body I didn't put a dot here, but for the container class we're going to have a dot container, and that is because I'm trying to say that anywhere within this page you see the body tag, apply these properties for this body class. All right, but if we're trying to make reference to just a particular div like the container, this is a div. All right, we're trying to make reference to just this particular div, this particular class, then we need to have a dot for that. Okay, that is why you see me having the dots here. So that's to say we're trying to make reference to this particular class, say primary 1, primary 2, primary 3. We need to call the class name. So for the container we're going to have some changes coming up. So for the container I want to say that the first property is going to be display. The first property is going to be display, and for the display we want to have it to be flex. Good. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to have the width for the container to be 100%, and we're good with that. If we go back and refresh, we might not really have much changes, but you see that things are already falling into place. Good. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to work on the sidebar. All right, we want to start working on the sidebar. And then so we can just have these and just say sidebar. We can just say sidebar styling. Yep, whatever you choose to type, but we can just have sidebar styling. And then for the sidebar, this is what we are working on, the sidebar. All right, see, this is the sidebar. So everything within everything we have, every content we have within the aside class is going to be affected by the sidebar class, the properties we're going to have within that particular class. So I'm just going to have dot sidebar, and then for the dot sidebar I'm just going to say we want to have a width for this content, and then we want to say let the width be 250 pixel. Beautiful. And then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a background color, and then the background color is just going to be ash 2, and then ash 2c 3e, and what should that be, 3e, then we can have 50. All right, so that if we go back and refresh this, you should see that we have some changes for this coming up. Nice. That is good. That is good. Just follow, and you will see the changes happening automatically. So for the color, we want to have a color of the text within the sidebar class. So for the color, we want to say that we're going to have ash e, and then we can say f, ash ef, rather ash ec. What should that be? Ash ec f0, and then f1. Yep, so we're good with that. So that if we go back and refresh this, you see things are already changing around there. Good. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to have decoration, we want to have display, and for the display we want to have display. Yep, for the display we want to have it as flex. Did I spell that right? Why is it showing error? So we're going to have display, and then we're going to say flex. The next thing we want to have is that are we having an issue within the sidebar? Oh, we didn't terminate this. Good. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to have flex direction, and then we're going to just say let the flex direction be column. Good. And then the next thing we're going to have, always remember to terminate at the end of each property. We're going to have align items. Okay, we want to align the items to the center. And the next thing we're going to have is that we want to have padding. So we want to say padding from the top. We're going to say padding. So from the top we want to have 20 pixel, From the right, we want to have 0 pixel. And if we just go back and refresh, you will see that we have those changes coming up and things are falling into place already. Good. So the next thing we want to work on is the sidebar header. If you check around, you're going to see we have a sidebar header. Good. So the h2, so this is the sidebar header. I want to see how to make changes to this particular class. Okay, this div. Good. So we're just going to go back and then we're just going to say dot sidebar header, and then we can just say for the dot sidebar header, we want to have the margin top, let the margin bottom be equal to 20 pixel, because we're trying to shift that from the menu items. We want to separate this from the menu items. So I'm just going to hit this and you see there's a separation. Good. So I think that should be all for the sidebar header. And then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have sidebar class sidebar header, and then we want to make reference to the h2 tag that is within the sidebar header class. So what we're going to do is that we want to have the color of that text to be #ec/ecf. We already have it coming up. Good. And then we can just terminate this. Okay, so now the reference we're making is to the look at this, we have an h2 tag within the sidebar header class, and that is where we're making reference to. Okay, that's the meaning of this .sidebar h2. So the next thing we want to have is that we're just going to work on the sidebar menu. So we want to say this is the sidebar menu, so this is the class we're working on now. Okay, everything that falls within this is within the sidebar menu class. So we're just going to say .sidebar menu is what we are working on. So we're just going to have the curly bracket open and close, and then we're going to say list styles. We want to say none, so that we can remove those bullet buttons that are within there. So you see they're gone. Beautiful. So the next thing we want to have is that for the sidebar menu, we want to have a width, and then we're just going to say let the width be 100%. Let the width be 100%. And then the next thing we want to do is that we want to have a padding, and the padding is going to be 0, so that we can shift that to the right, or to the left rather. So we're just going to have this. Good. Things are taking their rightful places, and we are making progress. So the next thing we want to have is that within the sidebar menu class, we have li list items, and then we have a tags, which of course is used for links and reference. So we want to work on the li first, and then we can work on the a. So the first thing we want to do is that we're going to say sidebar menu, and then li. So the li within the sidebar menu class, we want to make have some properties or have some changes to that. So we're going to say let the width be equal to 100%. All right, so let the width be equal to 100%. And if we go back and refresh this, you might not really get any changes for now. And then for the next property or class we're going to have is going to be the sidebar menu, and then we're going to have a. Now we're working on the a tags that are within the sidebar menu class. You see, let me show you. We just terminated that. Sorry about that, guys. So we have where are you? We have these a tags that are within the sidebar menu class. So we're just going to go back, and then within this space now, we're going to say we want to have the display. We want to have the display to be blocked. All right, so that if we go back and refresh our browser, no changes yet. Let's see if I had the next property, which of course we're going to say we want to have a padding of 15 pixels to the top and 20 pixels to the right, and you should see the change happening. Good. And that is what we have. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to have the color of the of the link. We want to have the color to be #e, and it's already coming up there. Good. So that if we go back and refresh this, you should see the changes happening. Beautiful. So where are you? So the next property we're going to have for this particular class is that we want to have text decoration. Text decoration is going to be known so that we can remove the underline on our link. So text decoration is going to be known, and if you check this out, you see that the underline is gone. Good. So the next thing we can have is that we want to have a transition. All right, so we're going to have a transition, and then for the transition we want to have a background, and for the background we want to have 0.3 seconds, and then we just terminate that and we're good. So next thing we want to work on is going to be the sidebar hover. So we want to work on something. Now what we're trying to work on is that when we hover around these menu items, okay, we want to see that the background colors change to something different, and that's what we're trying to do. So we're just going to say sidebar menu, and then we have A, and we're going to have hover. All right, so we're making reference to the A tags inside the sidebar menu. When we hover over the A tags within the sidebar menu, what should happen? So we want to change the background color. We want to say let the background color be what should the background color be? Let the background color be ash EC. Is it there? Ash EC. Should that be the background color? Okay, no, let the background color be ash 3 4495E. All right, good. So that if we go back and refresh and then we hover, you see what's happening. Beautiful. We have those changes coming up, and you see we are approaching this already. So that is what we have. And then so the next property, the next thing we want to have is that we want to work on the active A class or A tag. Okay, if we go back to our index.html, you see that we have an A tag that has an active class. So when we are on dashboard, we want to make sure that we have a background color. When we're on users, we want to make sure that that is the one that is active. So by default, we just have the dashboard link to be active. So let's go back and work on the .active class. So we're going to say .sidebar menu A .active. So for the one that is active, we're just going to have this. We want to say let the background color be the same as this. You can change it to whatever you want sometime later, but for the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to stick to this. So if we go back and refresh, because we have this to be active, you see we have a background color. Good. And if you hover over the others, they change their background color. So we'll just go back and then continue with that. So let's go ahead and work on the main content area. All right, let's start working on the main content area. So we're working on main content styling. Yeah, let's work on the main content styling. So for the main content, we're going to see .main content, because we have that class created already. .main content, let me show you. You should have that in your index.html. So we have .main content. So everything within the main is going to be affected by the properties we have within that class. So for the .main content, we want to say let's have the flex to be 1, and then we're just going to say we want to have a background color for that, and then we're just going to say background color. All right, so we're going to say background color, we want to have it to be ash EC coming up already, and then we're going to save this. And the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a padding of 20 pixel. I'm going to show you what that looks like in front. We're going to have 20 pixel, and if we go back to this and refresh, you see that changes are already happening and we're making progress. So the next thing we're going to have within this .main content is that we want to have an overflow, a vertical overflow. So we're going to have overflow Y, and this is going to be auto. Beautiful. Sorry for the typo. This is going to be auto. So the next thing we want to work on is the .main header. All right, .main header. So we're going to work on the .main header class, and then for that we're going to have the display. We want to have the display to be flex. I'm going to show you what that does in front, and then we want to have justify content. justify content, and then for the justify content we want to have space between. So let's just see what we have in front already. So space between, you see this is already taking shape. This has moved to the right part of our screen. Good. And the next thing we're going to have within that is that we want to align these items to the center. So we're going to say align items to the center, and then the next thing we can have is I want to have a margin bottom so that we separate it from the contents. Margin bottom, and that is going to be like 20 pixel. Good. So what we're trying to achieve is I want to separate the header from the content. So if you refresh this, you see that things are already changing. Good. So that is that for the main header, and then the next class we want to work on is the section class. Okay, so that is what we have here, where we have the cards. We want to work on this. So we're going to work on that particular class, and then we're just going to say dot cards, and for the dot cards we're just going to say display is going to be flex, and for the flex wrap we're just going to have this to be flex wrap. We want to have it as wrap, and then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a gap between our cards. Okay, so we're going to say gap, and then we're just going to have a gap for 20 pixel, so that if we go back and refresh, you're going to see that we now have changes happening. Okay, good. So now we're done with the with that. We want to now work on the card class. So for each of the card we want to see how we apply changes to the class. All right, we want to add properties that will make changes to the various cards so that they don't just look vague like this. We want to make sure they are looking like this. For toggle, you see the way they are. Good. So we're coming back to these, and then UI UX is interesting, and that's what we're doing currently. So for the background, we want to say let the background color be just white. Good. And the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a padding for 20 pixel. Okay, and then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a border radius for those cards, border radius for the card, and for the border radius we just want to have 8 pixel. And let me save this. Let's go back and let me show you what that looks like. So the border radius is the effect the change will make around the edge of the card. So if we increase the border radius to 45, you will see that we have a whole lot of difference that wouldn't make sense. Good. You see what the border radius does, so we're just going to keep this for 8, and that should make a whole lot of sense for now. Good. And then so the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a box shadow. We want to have a box shadow. It's a box shadow. Yes, we want to have a box shadow, and then for the box shadow we want to make sure that we have 0 to the top, 2 pixel to the right, and 5 pixel to the bottom, and then we're going to have RGBA, and then we can have 0, 0, 0. Now this is some color effect, 0, and then we can have 0.1. all right, good. Then we're going to save this. So the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a flex of flex is going to be 1, so we're just going to say flex 1, and if we go back and refresh, you should see that we have these changes happening. Now if you look around, you will see a border box. You will see there's a shadow around it. We have this slight dark color around it that's making things even more interesting. So the next thing we want to have is that we're going to have minimum width for this. Minimum width, we want to make sure the minimum width is 200 pixel, and then we want to have a maximum width. All right, for the maximum width we want to say calculates, and we're just going to say 50% minus 20 pixel, and that's what we're going to have for this. Yep, we're making progress. And then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have box sizing, and this is just going to be border box. So let's go refresh and see what we have. Good, beautiful. So the next thing we want to work on is that we want to work on our dark theme style, so that when we hit the change color button, we can change this to the dark skin color we have. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on our dark skin styling, so that we can have those changes coming up. So I'm just going to say dark theme styling. Good. So with this, we can just go ahead and say, okay, for the dark theme styling, we want to say body dots dark theme. So we're going to use JavaScript to play a whole lot around this, so that we can make those changes. Body dot dark theme dot main contents. So dot main contents. So for the main contents, these are the styles, these are the properties we want to have within the main content class when we are on the dark theme area. So for this, we're just going to say let the background color, we want to have the background color around there to be ash 2 to C, ash 2C, and then this is going to be the background color. We're going to save that, and then the next thing we want to have is that we're going to say okay, so this is just supposed to be like body.dark theme, and then the next thing we want to have is that we're going to say body.dark theme, body.dark theme dot main contents. So we're going to say body.dark theme dot main contents. Sorry for the typo. And then we're going to have this. So for that, what we are going to have is that we want to have a background color, and the background color is going to be ash 3, and this is what we're going to have as the background color. No, we can have that to be the background color. What we can have as the background color for this is going to be ash 344. Is almost the same thing. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to have a color for the text contents, and the color is just going to be ash EC, and this is what we're going to have as a color for the text content. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to make changes to the card when we are on the dark theme area. So we're going to say body.dark theme dots, and what are we making reference to? Body.dark theme dot card. So for the card, these are the properties we want to have within that class. So for the background color, we're going to have a background color of 2C, and then E50. Good. And then the next one we want to have is that we want to have color for the text that are within that particular class. So we're going to say color, and for the color, we're just going to have this. Yeah. And then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have box shadow for the card. So for this, we're going to have box shadow, and for this, we're going to have 0, 2 pixel to the right, 5 pixel bottom, and then we're going to have RGBA, and this is what we can have, 255 for the color combination, 255, another 255, and then we can have 0.1. Good. And then the next thing we can do is that we'll save this, and we should be done with the dark theme. Yes, we are done with the styling for the dark theme. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to make changes to this button, so that we can have it look like this one. We can have it look like the one we have here. So we're just going to go back and add the button style. All right, so that it can look very much beautiful like what we have. So for the button, I'm just going to say button, and then we're going to have this, and then we can just say for the width of the button, we want it to be 20%, and then for the padding, we want the padding to be what should the padding be? We want the padding to be 10 pixel. Good. And then we want to have a background color for that button. We're just going to say background color, and then for the background color we're going to have ash. We're going to have ash 007, and we're going to have BFF, and that should make a whole lot of sense. And then for the color of the text within the button, so that it can blend with the background, we're just going to say we want to have it to be white. So I'm just going to say ash FFF, and then that should make the color white. And then for the border, we want to make sure the border is known. Good. And then the next thing we want to have is that we want to have a border radius. So for the border radius, we just want to make sure the border radius is 5 pixel, and they should give you this slight roundness around the edge. So for the cursor, we want to say the cursor should be pointer. Beautiful. So that if we go back to our application and we refresh this, you see what we have, looking more like what we have in this other side. So now that we have this coming up and working just fine, let's go ahead and work on our JavaScript code, so that when we click on this, we should have the changes coming up. Good. So we're just going to go back to our index. We're going back to our index, and then we want to work on our JavaScript code. So what we can do is that we're just going to come back here, and then just before the end of the body tag, we're going to have a script. Open and close. I'm just going to say script open and close, and then within the script we want to say documents dot add. We want to add event listener, and then we're just going to have this. We're going to say DOM content loaded. So what we're trying to do is that we want to make sure that our JavaScript loads without waiting for our HTML content to finish loading. Okay, so we're just going to have these, and then I'm going to say this, and then what we can have is more like an associate array function that we use in PHP, but that's fine. So we're just going to have that, and then we want to have a constant, and we're going to have constants. And for this constant, we're going to have it to be team toggle. So we're going to have a constant, and then we can call the constant team toggle, and this is going to be equal to documents. We want to get element by ID, document.get elements by ID, and then for this we're just going to say we want to get an element by ID. And what are we getting by ID? Team toggle. Let me go show you what we're getting by ID. Team toggle, and then we can terminate this. Let me show you what we're getting by ID. If we go back, if we just scroll up, you will see that for the button, where's the button? For the button that has the change team color, we have an ID, and the ID name is team toggle, and that is what we're making reference to. All right, so we're saying documents that get elements by ID team toggle, so that when we click on this, we want to switch to the dark theme area. Okay, that's what we just did. So the next thing we want to have is that we're going to say team.toggle. What am I doing? Team.toggle, and then we're going to say dot add event listener. So for the event listener, we want to say on click, when you click that button, what should happen? So we're going to have a comma, and then we're going to have a curly bracket open and close. Then we can have this, and then we're just going to have a curly bracket open. So this is where we are going to specify and make reference to our style sheet. So we're going to say documents dot body dot dark. So this is where we're making reference to whatever we have. Okay, so we're going to say class list. So what class are we making a reference to? So we're going to say class list toggle, and that is going to be the dark theme class. All right, so we're making reference to dark theme within the style sheet. So wherever we see now we're trying to make reference to a class, a list of class that has the dark theme specification. So if you see, we have 1, 2, 3. All right, so body.dark theme, body.dark theme, body.dark theme, and that is what we are just doing here. So document.body.class_list toggle. So we're toggling the dark theme classes that we have here. Okay, so we just go back and then finish up what we have. So the next thing we can do is that we're just going to terminate this. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to terminate this. I'm going to terminate this, and I'm going to save it. So let's go back and see. Let's refresh this and see if we have the changes coming up. There are no changes coming up within our application. What could be the problem? So let's see. Let's just check and see what we have. So DOM content loaded, constant toggle, constant theme toggle, and what could be the problem? What could be the problem? Just a moment, guys. Okay, guys, we're trying to see that this works, but it is not showing. So let's see what the problem is. So if we click on this, it doesn't change. So we're just going to go back to this and see what we can do. I think we have an error within our JavaScript. Just want to make sure we fix this together, and that is coming from here. All right, class list dot toggle, and that is what is supposed to be the right thing. So that if we go back and refresh, so that's where the error was coming from. This space. All right, so it was supposed to be class list dot toggle and not class list toggle. So if we refresh this and then we hit this, this is supposed to switch to that, and then why is it not working? So we have a body document dot toggle, and then it's still not coming up. What could be the challenge? Let's see how to fix this together, guys, so that we don't go off the hook without fixing this particular error. So I'm just gonna see. So this is where the error was coming from, the dot toggle. All right, so if you just go ahead and check within the JavaScript code, we have document.add event listener, DOM content loaded. With this, we are making sure that we load our scripts without waiting for the HTML contents to load, and then we have a constant theme toggle. For this, we're saying that let's the constant be document.getElement by ID, and then we are getting this ID. All right, so that when we click on the change theme color button, we want to make sure there's a switch to the dark theme. So that is what we have here. And then so now we are saying that for this constant, we want to add an event listener, so that when we click on it, we have a change. So we're saying theme toggle, which is the constant we created here. So theme toggle.add event listener on click, we want to say that we want to change the body of the class list when we toggle to switch to the dark theme. So we're saying documents.body.class_list, the class list that has the dark theme class attached to it. That's what we are saying. So if we just go back and if we save this and go back and refresh our page, if we go back and refresh our page, we'll see that we have the changes coming up good. That is what we are supposed to have, and it's coming up just fine. So that is it, guys. We've come to the end of this tutorial, and if you have any question, please feel free to drop your comment, drop your questions in the comment section below, and I'm going to make sure that I answer your question. Thank you. See you in the next tutorial.